The sales call is going to be the most responsive, the highest touch, the most confidence building interaction you're ever going to have with them. That's what I assume when I'm calling a business, right?
Yep.
You know, if they know what they're doing, and so I'm going to gauge my entire potential relationship with them on that initial touch point. It needs to be fast. If it's a day before they get back to me, I'm done.
Today I'll be speaking with Mark Brower of Mark Brower Properties out of Mesa, Arizona. I spoke with Mark a couple months ago and he provided a lot of really good information. But one thing that we didn't touch on was his sales process, which allows him to currently close upwards of 50% of leads that come in through his business. Not only is his business able to close these, he's also using a business development manager that is doing the work for him. I thought that closing 50% of leads is an incredible mark. He goes really deep with me into how they achieve this, what his sales team looks like, what the process is exactly from when a lead reaches out up until the point that they become a client. I think there's a ton of insight that you can take and use in your property management company. So without further ado, let's get straight to the interview so you can start to learn from Mark.
Hello, my name is Mark Brower. I own a company in Phoenix, very creatively named Mark Brower Properties, residential property management company, serving over 500 landlords, a total of 620 plus properties under management. And I also am the co-founder and owner of Solo PM, which is a new concept in property management where we partner with sales-minded solopreneur property managers with smaller portfolios, and we essentially act as their full operations partner so they can scale faster.
Awesome. Awesome. So I brought Mark here today to talk all about property management sales. Mark's company does a great job of closing a high percentage of leads that come through his pipeline. So I wanted to dig deeper into what goes on behind the scenes of a successful property management company that's good at closing leads. So I guess to kick things off, I'm going to start with kind of a loaded question. What would you say is the mindset needed to be successful at selling property management services?
Well, the number one thing in a successful mindset in property management sales, in my view, is confidence. So I think you need clarity, you need confidence, and you need to think long term. So I can unpack those. So the clarity is who am I? Who do I serve? How is my service offering different than my competitors? And most people, myself included, in the first 3 or 4 years in being a business, I thought I understood exactly what those things were and that they were just painfully obvious. And why even think about it? Of course, I know who I am and who I serve, and I'm better than everybody else, and everybody should hire me just because. But 13 years into owning a property management company now, I realized that over time we get to know who we are even better than we knew before. And that clarity leads to more confidence. So when we understand how we differentiate against our different competitors, how we fit an unmet need in our market, and by the way, how we fit that need changes as we grow, right? So 0 to 20 doors, it might be all about Mark Brower, the person, and here's who I am personally, and I'm going to be more committed than you can possibly imagine, and I'm going to be one-on-one with you. Well, that changes when you get above 100. It changes again when you get above 300. So really being clear about who you are, what niche you serve in your marketplace, writing it out. One of my favorite author speakers is Jordan Peterson, and he says that writing is the deepest form of thinking. And so to get really clear and write out who we are and who we serve and who we aspire to serve is important. And that leads to confidence. If you're not confident, if I'm not confident about the service I offer, who I am, who I want to work with, and how I impact their life, then the sales call is going to go terrible, terrible. I, Early in my business growth, I noticed that a lot of my sales conversations were devolving or sort of breaking down into a conversation about price. If you notice that your conversations with prospective landlord clients are largely or even moderately revolving around price, that is an absolute fail. That means that that there hasn't been enough clarity about who you are, who you want to work with, and the tremendous value that you bring. Finally, long term, there's a lot more about that to talk about. But finally, thinking long term, like do I want to sacrifice? Am I going to upset my future self by saying yes today to the types of leads that 6 months from now, 2 or 3 years from now, are going to cause a lot of headaches and prevent me from growing the business? They essentially become a bottleneck. So the mindset needs to be, I'm really clear, I'm super confident about my value, and I'm willing to make the hard decisions in this call to maybe disqualify someone, and be disciplined and think long term about who I am and who I want to be, not just today, not just the money next month coming in, but 5 years from now. That should be the focus.
So on that topic, you mentioned something that we see all the time, where a property management company, you ask them, why should somebody work with you? And you'd be surprised how many people say, because I'm the best. No one knows you're the best. And to be quite frank,
What
not
does
everybody
that
can be the
mean?
best.
You're the best at what? Juggling?
Exactly. There's technically only one person that's the best, right?
Yeah. Well,
Could
look,
you give a,
yeah, and the best at what?
at property
Because,
management, I guess is what their
but there's yeah,
explanation is.
this is important. There's no universal best at property management because all customers are not the same.
Yes.
And some people say the riches are in the niches, and that's true. So if we can niche into exactly who we can serve better than anyone else, leveraging our own unique God-given gifts and talents, time, influence, and energy, and the team that we've created, and the culture that we've created, and the market space that we're in, there becomes a lot of clarity around that. And to say that you're best, in my view, diminishes your value because
Agreed.
it shows that you don't know who you are. It doesn't show that you know. I'm going to have more confidence if I'm the recipient on a sales call. I'm going to have more confidence if somebody says, I don't solve this problem. I don't solve this problem. I'm really good at this. I want to work with this person. Our happiest clients are coming from this background, this experience, and they have these criteria. And I absolutely won't do this, and I won't go here.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're saying what you're doing, you're putting a fence around it. Here's what I do, and here's what I don't do. And when someone understands and has that clarity about themselves, my confidence goes up. If they're willing to say no to me, if I don't fit their box, my confidence goes up. So sorry, I kind of jumped in the middle of your question there, but
No, but
saying that you're the best, I think is lazy and sloppy, and it shows that you haven't done the time, that you haven't taken the time to clarify, maybe for yourself in writing, exactly who you are right now and how you can connect with people and add the most value.
awesome. So it's not just about saying you're the best. You have to say you're the best for a certain type of profile. I think that might be the little change that makes your statement relevant for the person that you're trying to sell to, right?
And and I'm going to add to this, and as part of this comes from Alex Hormozy, fantastic salesperson, right? Like one of the
Yep.
world's best, probably. Um, don't tell somebody that you're the best for their situation. Oh, now that I understand your situation, I'm the best. No, no, no. It's like find out about them, tell them what you do and what you don't do, find out about them, and say, well, maybe I have a solution for you. It appears that we may be a fit, but can we explore this a little bit more? The faster you jump to, I've got a solution that's going to work for you. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. It's the absolute best. Nobody else can compare. If you take somebody to that point too fast in your sales call, you've lost them.
100%. Yeah. You need to play the role of a doctor. So when you walk into a doctor's office, they don't just start telling you what's going on. They ask you questions, right? They say, what's been going on? What are the symptoms you're experiencing? And by asking those questions, it leads them to a solution. You need to do the same type of thing to a prospect. So someone comes in, ask them questions. What are the difficulties they're experiencing? And can you even solve the issues that they're having? Is that something you're even set and fit to do? Because if not, yeah, you're basically just regurgitating your sales script and you're not going to do a very good job of closing them because you have no idea what they're even looking for. You're just telling them what you can do.
Yeah, and here's a problem, Stephen. Let's drill down on this a little bit. There's a problem in property management sales calls. I've tried the approach, quite a number of sales calls where I put the caller in the driver's seat and I ask them a lot of questions and I try to find out what they're looking for. I prove to them that I'm listening and then I care about their needs, and I'm only going to suggest we work together if we have a match for their needs. Now, here's the problem, and people that have been doing this for a while understand this problem. Most prospective landlord clients of a property manager have absolutely no idea exactly what they're looking for. They
Yes.
really don't. Why? There's some underlying reasons for this. Number one, becoming a landlord is becoming a business owner. Most people don't see it this way. They think, I've got a very standard problem that's annoying to me. There's got to be a standard solution out there. All operators are relatively equal. They all say they do the same thing. Therefore, my differentiator is price.
Yeah.
Okay. Wrong, absolute wrong thinking. And it's critical that we disabuse the caller of that notion and that mindset before we can effectively sell them what is a high value, high priced solution that will actually solve their problem and thrill them. So that's problem number one. They're becoming a business owner. Not only do they not realize they're becoming a business owner, most of them have no experience being a business owner. So this goes back to the clarity issue. Understanding the nature of the relationship yourself first in your head and getting really clear about that is vital before you can convey that and paint that picture to them. So what does that mean? That means if I understand that somebody with no business owner experience is becoming a business owner and they want me to manage their business, what does that make me? It doesn't make me a property manager. Property managers deal with tenants, toilets, and evictions.
Yeah.
I am offering to become the business manager of the business that they own. Totally different relationship. Totally different relationship. Okay, so that's important. The other part of this is that they are also needing asset management advice. It looked at from a very high level. The nature of our relationship with a residential rental property owner is they want us to be a business manager for the business they own. And by the way, think of this in this context. Um, if they owned a KFC franchise, let's say they were just a passive investor, they owned a KFC franchise, they have no interest running it themselves, and you have 20 years experience running KFC franchises, and they call you, you're their business manager, uh, they're expecting you to know exactly how to run that business for them. So in other words, you have you understand the template, you have best practices, you're in control, you're in charge, and you need their support. You need the owner's support. We can get back to that later in the call if you'd like. Okay, so that's business manager. Number two, asset manager. If you intend to add the most value in your relationship with this landlord, you must also think of yourself as a real estate investment advisor or an asset manager. At the highest level, this individual doesn't own a rental property only. They have capital allocated to an asset that needs to bless their life somehow. Well, the capital might be in the absolute wrong asset. Are we zooming out and looking at the entire picture and helping them reallocate that capital? Or do we have an understanding of their emotional tolerance or intolerance of investing in this asset class? It may be the case that they have no business being a landlord. We've all experienced those relationships, but we went blindly into them, diving headfirst, only to find out 2 years later that there's all this friction, recurring friction with this owner. Well, why? It's not because we're not doing our job. It's because they don't have the emotional tolerance to begin with to invest in this asset class. And the highest value we could bring to their lives is to help them exit. So
That's a
I'm
good one.
kind of getting in the weeds, but in order to have an effective conversation with a sales conversation, we really truly need to understand the nature of the relationship that we want. And we have to control the dialogue. I think this is the point I wanted to make. We need to control the dialogue enough, because passively asking someone in this kind of a sales call, what is it you're looking for? Honestly, they have no idea. And what we're doing is we're turning over control where they make up the parameters for success in the relationship. And guess what usually happens? We're perceived as a commodity service provider, and the conversation devolves to price.
Yeah. No, that's a
Sorry,
very
that
good
was
point.
long-winded. Sorry about that.
That's all right. It was you went in depth on the topic, so that's what we're looking for here. So let's shift over a little bit to Mark Brower Properties
Okay.
on the sales side of things. What does your sales team look like? Do you have a full-time BDM? Is it just one person handling sales? Can you take us a little bit through what that looks like?
Absolutely. We have one dedicated salesperson that is at a manager or director level, that all they do is sell properties for clients. They help buy properties and they help list and sell our clients' properties. And we're also building out our tenant to buyer program. So we have one dedicated, very experienced, smart, highly enrolled, committed person in that sales role. And then we have a separate role entirely as a business development manager. We rotate. We've gone back and forth from one business development manager to two business development managers. We are not the low cost provider, high volume property management company. So our sales calls require a higher touch, higher caliber of salesperson. And so we found that when we had two business development managers, even though each of them were closing about 10 per month, that was really good coverage. Currently, we have one. So we've kind of gone back and forth, one to two on that side.
Okay. And what type of closing rate do you aim for? And
50 to 70%.
50 to 70% of
Yes.
qualified leads or
Qualified leads.
qualified lead? I guess how do you determine what a qualified lead is? Let's take it a step back.
Yeah, good question. Well, that comes in the all important qualification part of the phone call. Some leads will through the online form or however they contact us, kind of reveal that they're not the right fit. Manufactured housing, horse property, large lots, irrigated lots. There's a lot of flood irrigation in Arizona. We don't want to deal with, those types of properties. And so age restricted homes, we also shy away from. So class C, small multifamily.
Okay.
So those are things we're going to refer out to other people. And then also the first part of the sales call, which I believe is the absolute most important part of the sales call, is qualifying. And so if they're not qualified, we're going to refer them out. We probably refer out about 30% of our leads because they don't meet our qualifications.
Okay.
And then of the
So
remaining, go ahead.
even at 50 to 70%, that's quite high.
Yeah.
Um, if I had to guess, when they first started, they were not closing 50 to 70%. Am I right on that? Or did they start off as an absolute superstar?
No, you're right. You're right. And there's also a ramp up period and training and so forth. And so, once they're in the zone, we expect them to close in that rate.
Okay.
Yes.
What would you say some of the biggest changes or improvements you guys made to get them to the point where they're now closing 50% plus of leads from
The
when they first
sales
started?
script. Yeah, the sales script. So important to have a sales script and that's effective.
Okay, so you basically would hammer them down with the sales script all day. They'd be practicing it, tonality, speed of at which they're speaking. Is that it?
Um, I don't know. I don't know. I we don't have them practice all day long. We do sort of mock, training calls where we switch. I demonstrate, you call me and you be a really difficult sales call. And, and so we emulate, we've recorded these these mock, role play calls. So we have some training videos. We also have live calls that we've recorded. So we have some training materials there. And then also, if an effective sales manager, if I'm the sales manager over the business development manager, I should be spending at least a half an hour a week listening to recorded calls, making notes, and then training, and then meeting once a week. So those routines need to be in place, absolutely. But the development of the script and how that actual written script was created, I think is vital to get us close to those closing ratios as well.
Okay. Got it. Got it. No, that's very impressive. That's one of the highest closing rates that I've personally heard of, of property management companies. What would you say the typical time period that goes by from the point at which someone comes in, so being a lead, up until the point that they close?
Yeah, that varies widely. It's difficult for me to pinpoint what that is, and I don't have the measurements on that, or I haven't checked those for some time. As we all know, some people are doing due diligence and they don't have the need for 6 months from now,
Yeah.
and other people, it's like, well, I've been putting this off. I'm moving. It's urgent. I need to get signed up now. My goal generally is to create enough energy and sort of healthy pressure around making a decision and making a commitment. And what I try to do with any lead, even if they need our services in 6 months, I try to get them signed up right now. It's like you're investing. We are investing this time with each other. I'm hoping to maximize that investment so that while all the information is current and fresh in your mind, you can make a decision. And
Mhm.
that's my goal in talking with you. And I'm very deliberate and very sort of explicit, that's what I'm looking for.
So when
I
you
know
say have them sign up now, even if their needs are in 6 months, it's sign up now to start in 6 months from now?
that's right.
Okay. So getting
Yep.
them to commit at this
Yes.
point, regardless of what the time period is at, like, to where they actually need your services.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yep.
And right now, are all of your sales done in person? Is it virtual? What does that look like? So somebody calls in or somebody submits a contact form submission. Um, how are you guys reaching out to them? What's the process like?
Yeah, it's 100% virtual, remote. And I like to well, usually the first phone call. When the lead comes in, speed to initial contact is vital. I mean, that should be sales 101. I don't think I need to say that, but maybe I do need to say it because I'm not sure what other people are doing.
I think you
Um,
do. I think
okay.
just from my experience speaking with a lot of property management companies, not everybody follows up instantaneously.
You
Um,
have to do that. You whatever it takes. Uh, Answer the calls live at least 85% of the time. If you have one business development manager, it's hard to get beyond 85%, we found, because invariably you're on phone calls a lot, right? Like you're out making outbound calls, you're talking with people, those conversations sometimes go 30, 45 minutes. So you are going to miss some calls. Have somebody else on the team dedicated for the rollover to take a live message, and have your BDMs Calendly links or whatever you're using to book appointments on their calendar, have those available to funnel people right into a sales phone call appointment, so that you're not just, end up, chasing each other and leaving voicemails and playing phone tag, right?
yeah,
So 85, 90% of the time, if you can, answer the call live. If not, absolutely get back to them in under 5 minutes, under 15 minutes max. Even if you're on another call and you're texting them, hey, I saw that you just tried reaching out. I'm on another call. Are you available in about 20 minutes? Do something like that. That speed of initial engagement is vital. Keep in, let's frame it this way. Most people, well, speaking for myself, and I think most people will be like this. Most people, when they're calling somewhere, inquiring about whether you're going to do business with them, especially in it's such a vital, almost like a partnership relationship, like a property manager, that business manager for you,
yep,
you're going to assume that the sales call is going to be the most responsive, the highest touch, the most confidence building interaction you're ever going to have with them. That's what I assume when I'm calling a business, right?
yep,
If they know what they're doing, and so I'm going to gauge my entire potential relationship with them on that initial touch point. It needs to be fast. If it's a day before they get back to me, I'm done. Unless it like unless it was a really strong personal referral, like, oh, you got to call this guy, he's amazing, take really good, sometimes he gets busy, it might take him a day to get back to you, but he's phenomenal, like, then I'm going to wait. But
yeah, agreed.
if it's a cold outreach and I'm not getting a call back within 30 minutes, then I assume, all right, they don't have their crap together, and that this isn't starting off right.
Especially since, as you said before, the average consumer, the average person that's looking to hire a property management company, views you as basically a commoditized service, right? Which means to them, okay, they didn't answer me. I'll just call the other five people I found online or I found wherever it was that they're looking for a property management company. So speed to response is huge. If you don't answer back within 15, 20 minutes, your chance of closing that sale just went down drastically. I agree,
Yeah.
100%. So, are you able to walk us through from the point at which a lead contacts you guys up until you close? Like, is it a one-step process? Do you have an initial qualifying call and then move to a sales call? What does that look like for you guys?
I'm gonna answer that by kind of giving a use case. A year and a half ago, I was in a spot where I didn't have a business development manager for a few months. I was between hires. I was being really selective, and so I was filling the role. And December of 22, I closed 30 new management accounts from 45 new client leads. So just myself.
It's impressive.
And yeah, and so I look back and what were the ingredients, and that time that was our all-time high, closing for 1 month. And so what was it about that made that possible? What was the method I used? What were my practices? And by the way, I was running a company also. So I was I was doing this like with probably 15 hours a week, probably not more than that. Um, so initial lead came in 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I would respond almost immediately. I would either pick up the phone or at least send them a text and get them on the calendar. And I would engage, and if they didn't reply, I would engage at least 3 times within the first 24 hours.
Okay.
Text, call, email, text, call again, you know,
I think that's an
because
important, don't mean to interrupt you there, but I
yes,
think that's a really important point. The first 24 to 48 hours are crucial. A lot of companies will try to reach out once. They don't hear back, like, okay, I'll wait a day or two to try and reach back to them. You need to be following up within that first 24 hours at least 2 to 3 times as you were doing. So
yeah. If you don't ever have if you don't here's a clue that you're not following up enough. If you never hear anybody say, gosh, you are really persistent. If you never hear that, if at least, the 5% of the total population that might be the most annoyed by your level of persistence, if you're never hearing like, oh my gosh, you're just like really on top, you're like blowing me, like they should be a little bit annoyed.
yeah.
If you're never hearing that, then you're not being responsive enough and you're not being aggressive enough with your follow-up. And you can develop this is a skill as a salesperson. You can always say, you know what, hey, I I'm sorry if I'm blowing you up. I just know how I get sometimes when I'm really busy, or I didn't know if your phone was off. So I didn't mean to be overly aggressive. You can walk back from that, but
Agreed.
you need to err on the side to be effective of being a little bit overly aggressive in the
Yeah.
most polite, professional manner.
And the truth is, what do you really have to lose? So maybe you have 5% of the people that get a little bit aggravated and they're like, oh my God, Mark Brower just keeps blowing up my phone. But the other 95% of people, they're just like, whatever. I reached out to them. They're following up. It is what it is. But the amount of extra clients you're going to close because you're so persistent highly outweighs that small percentage of people that you're annoying.
100%.
So let's go back to that. So first that you get a call in, you're following up 3 times within the first 24 hours.
Yeah. I just want to make one more comment about being
Okay.
overly persistent. I would love it if somebody wrote me a 1-star review and said, I reached out to this company and they were just way too persistent in getting back to me.
Yeah.
I would never happen in the history of Earth, but that would be a great thing. So being extremely responsive when the lead comes in, using multiple different communication channels, reaching out at least 3 times from the first 24 hours, and then reaching out once a day for the next 3 days, and then ultimately parking them on a passive nurture if they never respond. So sorry, active nurture. And we use Lead Simple, and I set up active nurture. It hits them twice a week with different videos, different messages automatically until they engage. And then it kicks it into reactivation stage. And then I know I need to communicate with them. I am not going to waste my entire day. There's some people that just will not. So it's the weirdest thing ever, right? They reach out and then they won't engage. I used to make it a personal vendetta to like follow up with them for months until it's kind of weird. I was like overly persistent in that regard. One time a lady said, "Hey, you're the most you've given me you're the best this is the best follow-up I've had from anybody I reach out to, but I don't need the services anymore." So um
Okay.
so don't worry about, you need to preserve your energy and your time as a salesperson. You need to be that sharp. You need to be really sharp. And so have a sense of when to put them on active nurture, have that program built out in Lead Simple, have it be automated, and do it and set and forget it. We have active nurture going for like a month and a half, and then it automatically moves to passive nurture, which keeps in touch with them once or twice a month for the next year.
Okay.
Maybe they hired a competitor. All
Yep.
right. Well, I want to re-engage with them. And I think we have that time so that about 12 months from now, which is when their first lease might be coming due, we're kind of sending them messages like, hey, are things going okay with your property? Are you self-managing? Did you hire a competitor? Because that's a point where they might transition.
Got it.
So okay, so that initial contact, the initial contact, once I get them on the phone, this is the most vital part, is that initial phone call. And this is where we follow the script. And I'm going to keep this phone call short. It's going to be usually under 30 minutes. I used to let these drone on for 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, go into endless Q&A. You know what? I think the message is that we're conveying when that happens is my time's not super valuable and you're in charge. You're in control of my time. That's not the kind of relationship I'm looking for. So I don't want our first call to start out that way. So I'm extreme. When I closed those 30 units, I was extremely disciplined, even though I'm the owner of the company, even though I created the script, even though I've said it thousands of times, I still have the script in front of me to make sure that I don't miss anything, right? And so I'm going through the 4 or 5 qualifying questions, then I'm moving to 2 to 3 value add bullet points, and then price never comes up until afterward. And then I like kind of say it as an aside, and then I say, and I'm going to give you a discount for the first year. And they're
Okay.
just like blown away. It's really important that that first phone call um, it's building energy toward a climax where people feel like they would be stupid to say no. Like that's from Alex Hermosi. Make the offer so good that people feel like an idiot saying no to it. And that doesn't mean that you make the offer so good on price. It means that you build the value as a crescendo so that by the time price enters into the equation, by the way, I publish price on my website. They already know what my prices are.
Yeah.
And so by the time it reaches that crescendo, the price seems such an amazing deal. And I've completely differentiated myself from the competition, showing that I'm not a property manager. You can't compare me to any other property managers. I'm a category of one by that point. And that's a really important thing to do in your sales script, right? and
Definitely.
then and then the price is an aside. So that first phone call, and we can dive more into that, but so being super I want to say aggressive, but really persistent, really responsive to get in touch with them that first time. That first sales call is like 85% of the battle right there, and making that solid impression, building that trust, making that irresistible offer. And then from there, you want to give them a little bit of homework, and have the goal of the first call is to have a follow-up call scheduled within 2 days after they complete some homework. There's a tremendous book called They Ask You Answer, and I love how it frames that we are teachers. We are teacher salespeople. What do teachers do? They give homework. They teach, they inform, they educate, they identify if this is the right fit or not. They're disciplined enough to exit if it's not, and then they give homework. And then once the homework is completed, we have our second appointment.
So, what would be an example of that homework that you would give to a rental property owner?
Absolutely. So one thing, the homework is always read the management agreement. It's
Okay.
published on our website. If you haven't read it already, read it, because I want to know what questions you have, and I want to answer those questions in our next call. Also, watch the 4 or 5 short videos I'm gonna send you that answer our most frequently asked questions for new clients. And so I'm not going to spend The reason I don't like going really deep with FAQs in that first call is because there's an energy around that first call. I'm building trust, I'm building authority, I'm building confidence, I'm making an irresistible offer, and I know they're going to have lots of questions. So I'm going to give them a link to my owner handbook. That's 28 pages long. I'm going to have them watch 4 videos and read the management agreement. We're going to have a follow-up appointment. That book, They Ask You Answer, he sold fiberglass pools, and he found that 95% of the time if they didn't do their homework by the next appointment, they didn't hire him. And so it was so vital that, that they were willing to make these commitments and keep those commitments,
Yeah.
and that just moves them along the
I
process.
I think someone that's going to go out and do the homework is also showing you that they, A, will be probably a good client,
Yes.
and B, they're engaged with what you had to say. If they
Mhm.
don't go and do the homework, they're usually probably not a serious prospect. They're not someone that's thinking, I'm going to sign up with this person. Otherwise, they'd be willing to take that, 30 minutes to actually do the homework before
100%.
signing up for
100%.
your
I'm
service.
not I absolutely do not want to work with somebody that's not taking this seriously, because I'm taking this very seriously. I also don't want to work with somebody that's so lax and careless that they don't really understand what they're getting themselves into, and they're not willing to invest the time to figure that out, right? Part of our qualifying process is I'm looking for owners that are supportive in 3 ways, and I'm very clear with them about this on the phone call. They need to support my process. They need to support, they need to have financial support if something goes wrong, and they need to support us emotionally, which is one that I was really shy about talking about for years.
Okay.
But it really, I want them to be a cheerleader. I want them to be encouraging us. I want them to tolerate imperfection. I want them to tolerate some bumps in the road. I need they're cheering us on as much as I need, as more than I need their fees, that they're charging us. I'm not looking for an abusive relationship.
Interesting. Interesting. And I imagine throughout that process, it's also helping you set expectations very well for when they sign up, which naturally is going to lead to keeping them on as a client for a much longer period of time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And there are still those that intellectually agree to what you're talking about, the nature of the relationship and your expectations of them, but then emotionally they can't tolerate it, and you still need to divest those clients eventually, right?
Yeah.
But it helps. You have to be super clear about it going in. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So once a client signs up, what does that onboarding process look like? So obviously getting someone to sign up is super important, but there's tons of studies that show a client's first 90 days with your business really sets the tone for the rest of your relationship, meaning how
Yeah.
long they're actually going to stay and remain a client, or are they going to churn and leave and go to another company right away? What does your onboarding process look like? How many touch points are you having with an owner that signs up? Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, and when I walk through that, let's start by saying our sale process is not done when we sign somebody and when we onboard them. It's just beginning. And so really when we talk about onboarding and how vital onboarding is, it's setting the stage for us to hopefully engage with them in the most profitable manner possible, which I alluded to earlier, which is selling their home or helping them buy other homes in the future. When I did a discounted cash flow analysis of the net present value of the revenue that I got for a standard owner account. Sorry, that's finance 101, right? You can take this anticipated cash flow streams of management fees and other revenue. Um, I found that the highest the by far the most significant driver of the profitability of a property management account for us was the likelihood that they listed and sold the property with us, and then how far in the future that event happened. So onboarding is vital to reinforce the trust needed so that they don't just think of us transactionally. I pay you a monthly fee, you collect rent, handle maintenance. They think of us like that real estate investment advisor. And so we have a dedicated onboarding specialist,
Okay.
number one. We have overlap where that onboarding specialist is engaging with them immediately upon signing, is in touch with them at least once or twice a week, is project managing the onboarding process, which includes a rent ready inspection, the rent ready report, the property turn. We have high standards for the clients we work with and high standards for the properties we manage. So we require a rent-ready inspection be done at every property that we onboard. And we usually, I would say 95% of the time, require that they invest money into the property before we will start marketing it.
Okay.
So that process happens, and they have that onboarding specialist ensuring that that rent ready is scheduled, that lockboxes at the property, the owner can drop the keys in, that they're super clear. All of this, this entire process also lives in Lead Simple. So we use Lead Simple for that project management side of things. The other thing that we did to supplement Lead Simple, Lead Simple is really good for task management. But what it fails to do is show the overall picture of where the entire process is at. So for instance, Lead Simple can tell us like, well, this stage is next, and this task is not overdue. Everything should be fine. But if there were 2 or 3 tasks that took longer than they should have earlier in the onboarding process, and the owner was sort of getting frustrated or annoyed by that, it's important to have like an overall picture of exactly how long the entire onboarding process is taking. So
Mhm.
we supplemented with a spreadsheet we call our onboarding date tracker, and it's a little extra work to fill it out, but it gives the salesperson who brought them in, who kind of wants to make sure that things are moving smoothly because they might be getting phone calls if they're not. The onboarding specialist and the property manager that the property is going to, they all have visibility on that onboarding date tracker. If things aren't being done quickly enough, the cells turn red in color,
Okay.
and they can see a cumulative days in onboarding and track that and make sure that that's being managed. We want to own the outcome, not just individual tasks. We want to see the whole picture.
Awesome. So you're equally as dedicated to your onboarding process as you are to your sales process. And like I said before, that's just going to translate to better clients, higher retention rate, and probably a higher client lifetime value over the long run as well.
I hope
So,
so.
do you have any departing words of advice for a property management company owner that's listening that is looking to improve their sales?
Yeah. Write down who you think you are. Really think deeply about it. Talk to other people about it. Understand how where you're at right now with your company size and your current offering compares with others. Do not lose confidence or lose perspective about looking at your competitors that are growing faster and thinking that it has to do with price. Avoid that temptation. Steer clear of that. Do not, I've been there and I thought, well, I need to lower my price to be competitive. It doesn't matter. That might sound crazy, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to chase low price. Differentiate yourself, leverage your gifts, talents, abilities, understand how you fit and need different, elevate the value that you bring by thinking in terms of a business manager, a real estate investment advisor, an asset manager. Show how that you do that differently than everybody else in your marketplace, and price is a non-issue. Let's frame that. Sorry if we're going over, but let's frame that a little bit. A certified financial planner for somebody that they're managing wealth for might charge 1% as an asset management fee. If they're managing $2 million, that's $20,000 a year. In my market, you can own 4 rental properties that are worth $2 million.
Yeah.
If I'm adding the value of an asset manager, which I do believe we are, looking at this capital, how it's allocated, how to reposition it, et cetera, if I charged 1% of assets under management, I'd be charging $20,000 a year for 4 properties. What is that? That's $5,000 a year per property. That's $400 per month.
Yeah.
So if your management fees are under $400 a month and you add the value of an asset manager and you're doing the day-to-day operations of their property and managing their property, you're driving a tremendous value for that client. I truly believe that. So,
That's a good way to frame it as well.
yep.
I would do you ever bring that up on sales calls? Like just
I'm
comparing,
I'm not on the sales calls anymore, but if I
yeah,
was, I would bring that up. I would highlight
yeah.
that. Yeah, for sure.
That's an interesting way to look at it, and I think that would really kind of like change the mindset of someone that's looking to hire a property management company, because you're comparing the exact same, like you're basically comparing apples with apples there.
Nope.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
interesting. I've never heard
Yeah.
that before.
Yep. That's a parallel that I think applies, and most property managers aren't thinking that way. They're thinking like, oh man, I got a competitor in my market that's charging $99 a month. They're killing it. What do I need to do? Here's the problem with the race to the bottom on fees. You got to make money somehow. And so now what you're going to do is you're going to overcharge residents, or you're going to make money in sort of unclear, maybe slightly unethical, but still legal ways, right? And then
Yep.
and then that contributes to the property management industry getting a bad rap and people just being upset and disenchanted with property management in general. If you want to take the high road, still make a lot of money, drive tremendous value and loyalty, then you have to get really clear about who you are. You are way more than your price. You are not a commodity. Tap into that, and then you can engage with people with confidence, and you can actually interview them. So if we do another interview, Stephen, on this, I'd love to go into like the qualifying. We could talk probably for a full 30 minutes about that part of that sales script that's just qualifying the people. And what that does is it puts them, the signal, the unconscious signal to them is like, he's interviewing me.
Yeah.
I hope I qualify for his services. Wow, has really high standards. That's going to translate to high standards to the resident they get. That's going to translate to better care for my property. That's like all of those things start building and they start selling themselves if we do qualifying effectively. So be confident.
That's great. That's great advice. For anyone that wants to connect with you, where would be the best place for them to reach you, whether it's solo or for
Yep.
Mark Brower Properties?
The people that I'm most passionate about helping right now are the small property management company owners, think 70 units or less, that are at their core salespeople. They've got that sales charisma, and that's who they are. That's their natural gift is being a salesperson. And inherently, they're not great at operations. Their books are maybe a little bit messy, or they get really bogged down and they lose energy when they're doing leasing and data entry and all this other stuff that's vital for property management. I want to partner with those types so that I can handle their entire operations, freeing them up to sell more and then triple or quadruple the rate that they're growing their business. So they can actually, instead of painting themselves into the corner and start, burning out or getting like a little chip on the shoulder, get a little bit crusty, a property manager, that they can reaccess their God-given gifts and talents and grow a lot faster and have it be and achieve that time freedom and financial freedom that we're hoping for as entrepreneurs. So reach out to me on solopm.co and let's book a call.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It's been a pleasure.